Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with Grammy-nominated composer and educator Tom Nazziola on the new 2024 album, Reflections of Love. For many years, Tom has been infatuated with the reharmonization of standards thanks to his beloved teacher, Ray Cassarino. As a tribute to him, as well as a chance to express himself in a different way compositionally, he reharmonized 11 standards on the subject of love with references to unrequited love, passion, loss, reminiscence, and desire. The songs from the likes of Gershwin and Rodgers and Hart are the heart of this album, including a wonderful song written by his father entitled I Know. We get into all of this and more. Enjoy.
Everything's great, man. Thank you for reaching out. I really appreciate it.
No, I'm glad you're able to do this. Definitely.
So, Reflections of Love is the new album, and I'm curious, we've kind of gotten to a point now where we're assessing what COVID did and how it affected the community of musicians and composers and arrangers. How did you ultimately make it through that time, and how did it influence this project? Was there anything corollary?
I don't think there was a corollary there, but I will say one thing. The COVID period, it's interesting you bring that up because that was the time when I was mixing and mastering the previous album. So COVID actually, not that it was good, but it worked out because since we couldn't really go out or work anywhere, it made it easy to work on projects like an album where you had to get everything together for releasing it. And so that was, how that kind of worked for me. It was just time to get everything buttoned up and, ready for release. In terms of this project, this really goes back to something that has been on my mind for a while, but I put it on the back burner. And that was I wanted to go outside of my own material and just exercise things that I have learned and loved about reharmonizing and arranging. So it was kind of a diversion from what I normally do.
How you specifically stitched all of these songs together, with that being the subtext of what you just said, how did this actually come together?
Okay, so I had the thought that, I'd love to reharmonize some tunes, and then I thought, I'd like it to have some kind of a theme to it. So I selected standards and even a Broadway tune there, which is Bernstein's Rodgers and Hart, that had something to do with the topic of love. And that also were maybe tunes that weren't heard that often or that regularly. So a couple of them are some major standards, but there are quite a few things in there that are not played often or people don't play them at gigs. So that was kind of the basis, was to take something or take a few things that were a little less known and to just play around with how those songs could be heard with a new harmonic approach or just a different vocabulary. But also in this reflective mode. So you notice the sounds that are chosen and everything that's happening there has got this kind of introspective slant to it, I would say.
How are you going to roll this out? When's the date that it's going to be rolled out? Any
Sure.
kind of live performance, any of that? How's that rolling out?
So the release date is August 18. So it's coming up in a few weeks. But, this is a good question because usually when you have something like this, you're going to gig or perform and have some kind of press release performance. In lieu of doing performances of the pieces, what I'm really looking to do is submit at least one or two for the Grammys this year in the arranging category.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, what are you hoping the listener gets from this album?
I'm hoping that they are reintroduced to these tunes. If they know them, great. If not, it would bring the tune to their attention and think about them in a much different way because of the way that they're harmonized and the platform in terms of the sound. I'm hoping that they'll just have a different perspective on these tunes because of those details.
Is there anything else going on that is newsworthy, something you want to kind of put out for the people?
A couple of things. I actually have a snare drum book that's going to be published sometime in August. It's sort of like with this album, I want people to think about things they may know about already, but in a different way. So snare drum is not necessarily the most interesting instrument to listen to alone, but if framed in certain ways, I think it can be interesting. So, for instance, one of the pieces I have is called My Grandmother's Washing Machine, and it's basically for snare drum and floor tom with a video component of different washing machines, and I'm basically mirroring some of the sound cycles that you would hear in these older washing machines. So it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but it's a way to connect playing snare drum with some other concepts.
This is coming out in August. If anyone wants to pick this up, or if they want to look at anything else that you've done, any of the good business, where's the best place for people to go?
So for the drum book, the snare drum book, is a website called mostlymarimba.com. That's where that's going to be sold. And for the album, Reflections on Love, that you could find on Bandcamp and basically all of the usual streaming services, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music. It should go through all of the main ones that are used. So that should be easy to find that way. It will not be a CD. It'll just be a download and streaming for the album.
Wonderful. Man, it's so great to catch up with you. Thank you for reaching out to the show. I'm looking forward to getting on the program. So, again, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Joe.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players and minds in San Francisco, New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Tom for his time, story, and reaching out to the show. If you want to hear more Neon Jazz interviews, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us at YouTube, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to theneonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.